Hello there. Are you considering buying an RV? I know the process can be a very daunting one. Or do you already own an RV and you want to learn from the experiences of others? Well, stay tuned. We're going to look at our purchase here and why we made the choices that we made. Stay tuned. So how do you choose an RV? It's very much like in the old days when you were going to choose a computer. You'd go into the store and you talk to the salesman, and probably one of the first things that they would ask you is, what do you want to use the computer for? And really that's what you have to do when you make a choice for an RV as well. With the computers back then it was, well, if you want to go ahead and use it for office work, well, you get an IBM or an IBM clone. If you're looking to do desktop publishing or graphics, you'd get yourself a Mac. Or if you're into doing music with MIDI or want to play games, the Atari. So the process, I think, of buying an RV is very similar to trying to find a marriage partner. It's almost that hard. At least it was for me. The analytical types would find it difficult. Those who just go by feeling would just go into something and they like it, it feels right, they would just jump in. But I'm more of an analytical type person, and so I look at all the different options. And the whole situation is that no matter what you decide, whether you go big, small, or in between, all your decisions are going to be fraught with consequences and setbacks. So really what people want is they want to have a 45-foot Class A motorhome with 4 slides and all the beautiful cabinetry and all the size. Most people anyhow. Yet they want to have the maneuverability of like a minivan and the stealth ability of a minivan. Unfortunately, you can't have them both. So you have to decide what is your main priorities and what you want to do with the vehicle. Are you going to be one that's just going to go ahead and stay in a BLM land or Crown land and perhaps go and stay in RV parks? And you want to be able to have the socialization that goes on with all of that, and you're well equipped with the funds to be able to afford the various different parks that are out there. Well, then you can go ahead and get yourself a big rig, and as long as you can handle it, well, then you're good to go, right? Now, we lived in the backcountry past Rocky Mountain House for 6 years. We had 7 acres of land in our acreage, and our back of our property was basically lined up with Crown land. Crown land is the same as BLM land in the United States. So you could just jump on a quad or a dirt bike and you could go and get yourself lost for 3 hours or 4 hours or even longer, like literally tens of thousands of acres of land. And in that area, basically, that's where the people, the RVers, the weekend warriors, they'd come out there to go and ride their quads, go fishing, hunting, stay in their RVs. And there was a steady line of vehicles coming out on the weekends. Like it was continuous, especially on certain vacations. It was just unreal. You might see 20 Jeeps in a row driving by. So I'd like to talk about that for a bit because, most of the people, I'm going to break it down here, like 60%, I'd say at least, of the RVs that were going out there were 4x4 pickups pulling a bumper pull trailer. They would have their quads and their dirt bikes and whatnot lined up on the back of the truck. And so a huge percentage of those were going with the bumper pulls. And then you'd have the people doing the fifth wheels, maybe, 25%, something like that. I mean, it's not exact. I'm just giving you a rough idea of what I was seeing. The guys with the fifth wheels, some were pulling fifth wheels with another trailer in behind pulling their quads or a boat or something like that. So that's an enormously long rig. And then you'd have maybe 5–10% of people coming out with 4x4 trucks with campers right on the back of the box of the truck. Some pulling trailers as well, RVs, their ATVs and whatnot. And then the other small percentage were Class C's, Class B's, and very, very few Class A's. probably in all the time I was there, I've seen maybe half a dozen Class A's go out there. The reason why that is because a lot of these people, they'll end up driving in through the ditch and find their parking spot. And, you know, very hard to do with a big rig. I mean, there's, you're going to be running into trouble. You're going to be torquing and twisting on that frame, and it's going to be very difficult on your rig. So, so right there, I mean, that's a type of person with a very specific type of want and need for their RV. They're weekend warriors. They're going to be going out into the backcountry. They already own probably most of them pickup trucks anyhow. So really their best and cheapest option is to get a bumper pull trailer or a fifth wheel, depending on your needs. Fifth wheel's a better unit to be able to pull, of course, and you have more maneuverability, but then you eat up your box for storage or for carrying your ATVs or motorbikes and stuff. And then there's a maintenance cost too. I mean, you're not having to go ahead and do oil changes and, keep the motor running properly and transmission, all these various different things. So there's a lot of benefits that way to having that. You just basically hook up to the trailer and hook it up and go, right? So that's very good. The disadvantage, though, of course, is if you want to go ahead and do anything where you're going into major cities along your routes, you can probably get away with, parking on the side of the road, depending on where you choose to park, and being able to sleep in the rig. But it's not really, you can do it, but it's not for long term anyhow. You wouldn't be able to stay in one area for a long time and do that. You'd probably get flagged and be called out on it. So, you have to see what you want to do there. Now, when you go into the truck camper route, I mean, that's the thing where you don't even have to register that thing, and you stick it on the back of your truck and go, right? And you could probably blend in better, for sure, than pulling a great big trailer. So, and the other real advantage there versus, the Class A, B, and C's is that you got a 4x4 underneath there. So if you're going to go adventure camping, I mean, that's obviously, one of the best choices is to have a camper on the back. And they get to be pretty enormous and huge, really, with slides and whatnot. So that's a really good way to go. I mean, I was considering that very seriously. So this has been a long struggle as far as, trying to figure out how we're going to go with this, because really I'd like to have the space of a Class A but yet I want to be able to have, like, my top priorities are to be able to have maneuverability and to be able to go where the road goes. I mean, if there's a side road, and that's particularly where I'd go, like there's basically those who are like part of the herd, and the herd is over there. Well, if the herd's over there, you'll find me noodling around on the fringe or on the edge. For me to go to an RV park and just sit there with neighbors, stacked up beside me, I mean, no, it's not for me at all. I mean, I look at those every time I see them when I go traveling around. I say, how do people do it? I just, what's the point of coming here with that? So that doesn't work for me. And so I needed something that could be stealthy and blend in a little bit more. Although T-Rex here is not a blend, well, it's not stealthy anyhow. I mean, it's it's a standout, really, is what it is. I mean, a 4x4 lifted Class C, come on, it gets noticed, right? But, the thing is that it still has a blendability to it. Like if you go and find yourself going into a residential area and you can park on a side street, you're not parking in front of someone's house off to the side. People, I think, will generally say, hey, that's a cool vehicle. I don't mind it being there. It looks good, and people aren't going to bother you. At least I don't think so. We'll find out, I guess, as time goes on. But, that was the thinking of it anyhow. When I saw the 4x4 vans, I was thinking to myself, well, why didn't Ford, GM, and Dodge make those 40 years ago? I mean, come on. I mean, that's just awesome, those things. So the problem with a van conversion going into 4x4, I mean, you're looking at $10,000 to $20,000 to do a conversion. So it's really cost prohibitive for a lot of people, and I can understand why. And if you get one built out, like Sportsmobile builds them out, Ford Econoline 1-ton, you're looking at $90,000, $100,000, which is actually, like in line with what, other Class Bs would be, like from Pleasureway or Leisure Travel and whatnot. And you got the 4x4. Just, it's not a wide body, so it's a smaller space, right? if your priority is to be able to maneuver around and to be able to stay out of the campgrounds, go into cities and be able to blend in, definitely a van of some sort is the best way to go. One of my top choices was actually a Pleasureway. They have the Ford chassis and they have the Sprinter Mercedes chassis as well. And years ago, when they first came out with a Sprinter chassis, I was in an RV dealership and I just stopped in and I saw this and I thought, oh, this is awesome. This is great. That's real. And then I found out the price was $95,000 back then, and I had sticker shock and basically kind of just left the whole idea alone for many years. But and looking at it for our purposes, it was a very good option for us, except for the ground clearance isn't there. And I want to be able to, go into a ditch and drive off into a side road, or go, where a side road ends and there's an area that you can go beside a lake or whatnot. I want that option. So I needed the ground clearance, number one. So with the Pleasureway or with any of these other, or even a Class C actually would have worked. Actually, I would have, if I had gone Class C, I would have gone with a Class B+, which is basically like a Class C. It's got the van chassis and the box built on the back, but it doesn't have the overhang in the front. So it just kind of has a roof sloping back. And if you get a short one, 21, 22 feet, it can, blend very well too into an environment. It doesn't scream out as much that you're camping in it. Well, it's better than a Class C anyhow, or a Class A that way. So that was definitely an option. And for me, because I wanted to be able to raise it up, it had to be a Ford chassis, because the Ford chassis is a better one as far as doing a lift. There's more options, and it's just a better under chassis to be able to do that. So yeah, so I was looking at minimum to be able to go ahead and do, if you go and Google Ford van lift kit, you'll be able to come up with some different options there. So doing a 6-inch lift with slightly bigger tires, and then if you were to get like a Detroit locker on the rear end or an ARB air locker, you're saving the expense of going with a full 4x4 and the hassles. I mean, if you get a good 4x4 conversion, that's great, but it's going to be a little bit rougher ride, and it's going to eat up a little bit more gas and cost more, of course, as well. But going that option with the Ford chassis and lifting it, then you have some options, and you go adventure camping with that pretty good. So I was still looking in the looking phase, and then all of a sudden T-Rex came up, and I thought, oh, that's it. I've been looking at that for a long time. It's an older van. It's 1991, which normally I wouldn't touch, something that old, given the just the rust factor that happens over time. Yeah, so T-Rex came up, and just had to jump. It's a little bit premature for us given our scenario, but we're definitely going to be working ourselves into it, and we're really happy about it. So lots of different choices to make. For us, I mean, we're backpackers a little bit. We do that. Go on a weekend where you're doing 30 miles through the mountains type thing, and you're living in a little tent. And this here is this is a van mansion, or vansion, I guess you'd call it, right? Compared to that, so. I think we're going to be able to work it out. We're not tall people anyhow, and so that helps as well. I mean, if you're over 6 feet tall, this would probably get a little bit stifling, I think. But we're under 6 feet, and we're pretty happy and excited about the whole situation here. So, okay, if I think of anything else, I'll add it to this video.